Thank you all for coming. I'm going to say that. We're going to do a few speeches now, but unlike a lot of people, I'm not that frightened of public speaking. I don't have an irrational fear of it. But you'll understand, though, if I say many of you have experienced Rosie's sharp wit over the years, and you'll understand if I say that I have a totally rational and profound fear of my wife's public speaking. So I'm hoping to use these few minutes as an opportunity to put the case for the defence. And after I've spoken, I'm likely to rush out the door and get in the car. But Rosie's going to speak and say a few words, and then Alex and Lizzie are going to say a few words.
The other way around.
You go first.
That's what I thought.
Okay, well you next, and then Rosie. Yeah, I didn't know that. So, well, Alex and Lizzie are going to say something, and then Rosie's going to say something. Kerry, always visible. And then we'll talk about that. But before I start, I'd like to thank Mark, Laura, Sarah, Hannah, Thomas and Charlotte, and Simon, our chef, from Red Herring, who are catering this evening for the professional and friendly service. And when they appeared earlier today, the pressure came off. It was really wonderful. Because I hope you, Ulrika, you've commented on the pointing. I pointed the patio this last week. Brilliant job. Thank you, Peter.
You missed it.
Yeah. I'd also like to thank one very, very special person here, my mother. Where are you? Where are you? She was present at my birth. Are you standing or sitting? It's hard to tell these days. Thank you for all the last 47 years of my life. For all the loving care and all the food. Thank you very much, Mother. I love you. Thank you. And obviously thanks must go to my father, and it may come as a surprise to many of you that I do know who my father was. He was a Liverpudlian. He was somewhat carelessly named Philip John Thomas. My father was a man of great integrity and eviscerating wit. And on first meeting Rosie, and I don't lie here, he described me as a fart in a colander that couldn't make its mind up which hole to escape through. Which really supported my quest for her hand. I'd also like to say to all our wonderful friends here, thank you for coming from all points. Sheffield, Cardiff, Canterbury, even as far south as Milford-on-Sea. No, where's Marion? From Johannesburg today, this morning. And looks so beautiful. Both of Rosie and I come from very small families, and I'm not talking about my mother again. So our friends bring us so much love, warmth, and enormous amounts of fun. But sadly, we've also lost some lovely friends as well over the years, and as Dee, you'll know, I always choke up here. But we've lost some lovely friends to illness, and if I talk more, I'll start blubbing dreadfully. But I ask you all to raise your glasses in a toast to friendship. To friendship. Thank you very much. And so on to Rosie meets Andrew. So most of you know how Adam met Eve, or Antony met Cleopatra, or Hitler met Ava, or even Harry met Sally, or the greatest of all modern romances, how Corbyn met Abbott. But I'm certain none of them bought the house next door to their future partner. Rosie owned a house a few doors up from her doting and protective mother in Nottingham. I bought the house next door to her. So the scene was set for another great romance as dynamic, handsome, thrusting young petroleum engineer. It was a shared house purchase. Moves next to beautiful, young, intelligent, property-owning lawyer. So the only fly in the ointment, though, was the protective mother living just a few doors up, for whom no man was ever going to be good enough for her fragrant Rosie. So as you can see, protective, loving mothers feature strongly in my life. In fact, the first time I lost my virginity was on a camping trip. What's so funny about that? The first time I lost my virginity was on a camping trip to North Wales, when her mother caught us in flagrante. And I remember, the Italians don't have a word for it, and I remember vividly, I remember so vividly what her mother said. Bah! Some of the more depraved forget that. I still have the Wellington boots if anyone wants to borrow them. So back to Andrew Moves Now. I wanted to do a bestiality joke in Brockenhurst. Just thought it was sort of wrong. So back to Andrew Move Next to Rosie. It may not surprise you to know that Rosie was living in a semi-detached state, while I was living in a completely detached state. I introduced myself to my neighbours and met Rosie and immediately offered to erect a radiator shelf in her hallway. Make of that what you will. So things went from shelf to altar in a matter of only 3 years and 2 unsuccessful proposals. Now, my version of that story was I wasn't sure about her. But despite appearances, marriage to me hasn't been easy for Rosie. Ladies, imagine walking down the street with a stud muffin like me. Every woman, some men, and a few occasional sheep mentally undressing your partner. Remember also I had a detached house and she was in a semi-detached house. So Rosie could have been forgiven for considering herself my lesser half. That's why I'm leaving after this speech. But the marriage has lasted up till this evening. And having listened to me for droning on for the last few minutes, I'm sure you're wondering why. So I'd like to turn to... Where is my wife, Rosie? Where are you, Rosie? In the taxi. Where is she?
Brockenhurst Station.
Where? Let's see her. Rosie, where are you? Where are you? So attractive, caring, inspirational are just some of the words she's likely to use when describing me. But thankfully, Rosie has, hopefully, an incurable and most wonderful sense of humour. She's had to have. She has an encyclopedic memory for all sorts of things, but especially songs from the 70s and 80s. Test her out. But she has a rare sharpness of intellect that all who have studied, worked, or just watched University Challenge with her would testify that probably she would have taken her to the highest levels of the legal profession. But she chose another route, being the most laid-back, kind and reliable of people. And she supported me and our loving children every day of their lives and every day of our relationship. So rather than go all Facebook on you with ever greater and gooier public declarations of love, I'm going to modify a quote from Spinal Tap and say that loving and being loved by Rosie is and always has been 11 out of 10 for me. Right from that first radiator shelf. So I ask you to join me in a toast to Rosie. To Rosie. And now I hand you over with great crepidation. Yeah, that's where you lose control of your bowels and you're really worried. So great crepidation to Alex and Lizzie. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Well,
How do we follow that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it goes.
hold on. So, we consider ourselves to have a slightly unusual upbringing, in that we've had many years of having parents with no fixed employment, meaning they've been around a lot of the time to look after us, another job they've sometimes struggled to undertake on a consistent basis. Most notably, I believe the time when Dad forgot to pick us up from school, which is something we don't let him forget, though let's face it, he probably has.
Yeah, I'm not bothered.
No. Having our parents around has led to many mealtimes spent as a family and with friends, filled with discussion, particularly helped by the fact that Lizzie and Mum have been banned from singing at the table. Quite an early point.
Out of our two parents, it's probably fair to say that Mum is more known for her singing abilities than Dad. Where audiences flock to see her amateur dramatic productions, Dad's singing prowess is perhaps more efficiently employed as a crowd dispersal tool. And we warn you, will be used at the end of the night for those of you outstay your welcome. Having the luxury, though, of time on their hands, Mum and Dad have been able to pursue a range of hobbies, some of which quite literally supporting the idea that opposites do attract. Where Mum has had many a foray into the am-dram world, with many an entertaining show, some of which well and truly proving why the performers aren't being paid for their work. Her roles have ranged from the dowdily dressed Cabbage Patch Fairy to a slightly more risque, leotard-clad moment, which remains etched on both our and probably the audience's memories, for all the right reasons, of course.
Where Mum's hobbies centre around the performing arts, Dad, fortunately, has chosen to pursue other interests, most namely his vain attempts to actually get Mum onto his boat. In the past year, he has cycled the lengths of both Britain and France, trips in which his tight lycra wearing have ensured the safety of the group by making cars stay at a safe distance. One also has to mention his blog writing, which documented these trips in a somewhat esoteric style, leaving us questioning to actually whether he was cycling or on some kind of hallucinogenic fuel writing.
As well as his cycling, Dad has managed to convince many a friend to make repeated trips to sail with him on his beloved boat, which does leave us questioning as to what they do actually get up to on there. But his love of sailing can't just be explained by his enjoyment of having the wind blow through his luscious locks. It might also relate to the fact that the boat allows him a captive audience with which he can share his views on current affairs. Threatens to get on the boat, all the more understandable. While Dad enjoys increasing his knowledge of sailing knots, Mum prefers to unravel many a cryptic crossword conundrum, and a more recent development in her life has been the quality time she gets to spend with her iPad. Her love of all things quizzing, from her trusty Sudokus to Sporkle games, have allowed her to continue to hone her quite astounding general knowledge, and thus remain as perhaps one of the finest university challenge contestants that never was. Although we do remind her it's never too late to enter as a mature student.
Where Mum spends a lot of her time puzzling, Dad prefers to use his time to demonstrate his often glazed and unresponsive disposition is not always indicative of his actual brain activity. as well as his many building projects, he has, in fact, and as I'm sure many of you know, spent much time in firing out emails and has swallowed up a large portion of the Amazon rainforest in sending out pamphlets, spreading word of his latest political epiphanies. When they're not attempting to put the world to rights, Mum and Dad very much enjoy travelling it, and have taken us on many holidays throughout the years, from America to New Zealand, for which we are very grateful. In recent years too, they've left us at home and visited many different countries. During these trips, they managed to dispel the myth, particularly to many impoverished Indians. The Western world is filled with glamorous and beautiful people. An important message which they intend to impart further over the coming years.
Although it may appear as ominous that Dad's profession of relationship therapist relies on his ability to find solutions to keep failing relationships going, we do, in fact, feel very lucky to have such stable and supportive people as our parents. People are always up to have a laugh, but also, and importantly, always there to give help to both us and their friends. They might be our parents by chance, but they're very much our friends by choice. And we know they really appreciate you all being here today to celebrate their 25th.
So on that note, I'd like to propose a toast to our parents and to 25 more years of fun and friendship. And now we'd like to hang over to the much suffering.
This is where I leave her.
Well, do you know, I'm so old I can't even read it. Don't grin, Alison. Actually, I might give up after that. You see, the problem with going last is that everyone's thinking, oh God, not another one. And how long is she going to be? And, well, the answer is not very long. And probably not very funny either, especially after the last one. Sort of think of me as the amuse-bouche between the main course and the sweet, which is about to come up.
What does that mean?
I'll tell you later. The other advantage of bringing up the rear is, of course, that I get to have the last word, which I've tried to keep up as a tradition during our married life. So what can I say? 25 years of happiness for Andrew and I. And then we met. A quarter of a century, probably about half of perhaps most people in this room of their lifetime, perhaps a little less for some, more than a lifetime for a few people here, but of course at permanently 29, nearly my whole life. We married in 1991, we met in 1987, and you've already heard the circumstances in which we met, and let's face it, the fact that I was semi-detached and he was detached, he has never let me forget. He did call round, he did want to introduce himself, he did say you could do with some radiator shells. And I'm the man to fit her. To be honest, as an introduction, it lacked a little finesse, but it made up for it in originality, and I suppose I should have known from that point. I mean, over the years, our relationship, like any relationship, hasn't always been smooth. Fair, Anne? It's had its ups and downs. I mean, I have to say the downs were a little surprising because I can remember very clearly the wedding ceremony. I can remember for richer, for poorer, for better, for worse. And I distinctly remember saying yes, no. That aside, though, I mean, an occasion like this is one to think about relationships, obviously, and what makes them work, what doesn't make them work. So I thought I'd do a little bit of research, and I found some based on scientific fact, if there's such a thing. So there were 5 pointers that they set out. Firstly, see them for who they are, your partner, warts and all. So I thought, well, okay, I'll start then by making a little list of maybe the faults, the things that aren't so good, which I've got here. To be honest, I spent about 2 minutes and I thought, stuff that. Be willing to learn. Well, Andrew certainly is willing to learn.
Slowly.
And actually, if there was anything that he knew and I didn't, the same would apply. Embrace ordinariness. I put the next two together. Embrace ordinariness let go of expectations. Well, we've got those covered. Share interests, but not all of them. You've heard a little bit about that, and we have tried, but to be honest, five-a-side football, squash and sailing are really not for me. And my home improvements wouldn't measure up in any sense of the word. And while Andrew cycles from the north of France to the south of France and from Dover up to the northwest of Scotland, I can barely wobble my way along a forest track. I mean, his efforts, as you've heard from the children, his efforts at my interest weren't a huge success either. I mean, dancing lessons never took off, did they? Because of your innate lack of rhythm and 2 left feet. And although you've heard something about his singing lessons, I think talk a little further to his mum, who is the sole living survivor of his first public performance, and is probably still traumatised from it. What can't be denied, though, is that Andy's always willing to have a go. What can I say about his active and inquiring mind? He always has some project or idea on the go, and many's the time when Alex, Lizzie or I have been greeted with those infamous words, "I've had another business idea." And our hearts leap and our faces beam with delight. Tell me more, we say. He's great at thinking outside the box, and that's always very innovative, very fascinating. Getting him back into the box can be. He loves, as you've heard from Alex and Lizzie, a great political discussion. He likes to bend your ear on things that really grab him, like
Well, I'm right.
economics, the NHS, just a couple there. And he definitely needs to brush up on his small talk. I mean, his knowledge of celebrity culture and trivialities is pathetic. So tonight, everybody, can I please ask you, when speaking to Andrew, just to talk about nothing that has any meaning? Joking apart for a moment, we do seem to work together somehow. And when I look back over the 25 years, I can honestly say it's been a lot of fun and a lot of joy. And that can't be bad. Life with Andrew is never dull, as I know a number of you will have experienced. And I know, knowing him as you do, that you will appreciate his lovely qualities. He is a very perceptive person. He's completely honest, completely trustworthy. He's very, very thoughtful, very loving, and very caring towards his family and his friends. And I know that many of you here will agree with that. He also has a great sense of humour, which I hope, anyway, otherwise I'm in big trouble. Above all, what he is and always has been is a very thoughtful, very loving and dependable husband. He never criticises my judgment, by the way, which is probably just as well because I chose him. There's no doubt marriage is a great institution. And for some, 25 years in an institution with no right of appeal may be a breach of human rights. Perversely, tonight we're celebrating that. What better way to celebrate than with our 2 lovely, I hesitate to say children, but young people, who we are immensely proud of and who have given us enormous joy most of the time. And of course with all of you, our really dear friends whose friendship we treasure and means a lot to us. It's lovely particularly to have Estelle, who's still here with us, to share that. And my big brother Ian, who's also here. Now Ian was the one, in the absence of our father, who died a few years before our wedding, Ian was the one who gave me away on our wedding day. Well, to be honest, being half Scottish, he didn't want to give me away at all. But he kind of thought, well, I'm not going to get anything for her, so I might as well. Finally, there is an old saying, a man is incomplete until he's married. Then he's finished. And I hope you're not finished yet, because I would like you all to raise a glass to my very loving and much loved husband, Andrew, 25 years of fun, and hopefully at least 25 more.
Thank you. And we're going to do dessert.
And now it's the pudding.
Thank you, Alistair.
Smile for the camera.
Yeah, that's an Android device, by the way. And he worked for Microsoft.